policies and interventions for development in various sectors and issues arising out of their design and implementation. 5. The policy suggestions in National Digital Communications Policy are important for the telecommunications sector and for Digital India. Examine. 250 words background. As the present world has entered the era of modern technological advancements in the telecom sector such as 5G, LOT, M2M, etc., the need was being felt to introduce a customer-focused and application-driven policy for the Indian telecom sector, which can form the main pillar of Digital India. By addressing emerging opportunities for expanding not only the availability of telecom services but also telecom-based services. Accordingly, the new National Digital Communications Policy 2018 has been formulated, in place of the existing National Telecom Policy 2012, to cater to the modern needs of the digital communications sector of India. National Digital Communications Policy. The key objectives of the policy are broadband for all, creating 4 million additional jobs in the digital communications sector, enhancing the contribution of the digital communications sector to 8% of India's GDP from 6% in 2017, propelling India to the top 50 nations in the ICT Development Index of ITU from 134 in 2017, enhancing India's contribution to global value chains, ensuring digital sovereignty. These objectives are to be achieved by 2022. The policy aims to provide universal broadband connectivity at 50 Mbps to every citizen, provide 1 Gbps connectivity to all Gram Panchayats by 2020 and 10 Gbps by 2022, ensure connectivity to all uncovered areas, attract investments of $100 billion in the digital communications sector, train 1 million manpower for building new age skill, expand IoT ecosystem to 5 billion connected devices, establish a comprehensive data protection regime for digital communications that safeguards the privacy, autonomy and choice of individuals, facilitate India's effective participation in the global digital economy, enforce accountability through appropriate institutional mechanisms to assure citizens of safe, secure digital communications infrastructure and services. The policy advocates establishment of the National Digital Grid by creating the National Fiber Authority, establishing common service ducts and utility corridors in all new city and highway road projects, creating a collaborative institutional mechanism between center, states and local bodies for common rights of way, standardization of costs and timelines, removal of barriers to approvals, facilitating development of open access next-generation networks. The new policy addresses the following issues of facing telecom sector. The industry is going through a financial crisis, as a result of which as many as 5 operators have shut shop. Overall debt burden of the remaining players has burgeoned to alarming levels due to expensive spectrum auctions and huge reduction in cash flows. Telecom consumers are no better today than they were 2 decades ago when it comes to quality of services. Call drops, unwanted telemarketing calls, patchy data networks and unfair practices to get users pay more are rampant. To make matters worse, consumers do not have access to a reliable and neutral complaint redressal mechanism. Public sector companies in this sector continue to languish under high manpower costs and red tape. There is a big worry over the huge imports of telecom equipment and devices at a time when India's trade deficit is ballooning. Benefits to telecommunication and Digital India. Digital communications infrastructure. The NDCP 2018 envisions supporting India's transition to a digitally empowered economy and society by fulfilling the information and communications needs of citizens and enterprises by establishment of a ubiquitous, resilient and affordable digital communications infrastructure and services. The customer-focused and application-driven NDCP 2018 shall lead to new ideas and innovations after the launch of advanced technology such as 5G, IoT, M2M, etc., which shall govern the telecom sector of India. The policy is completely new and transforming. This will hugely boost the center's New India and Digital India objectives. This is the first time both the private sector and the government are working hand in hand. The aim to developing the market for IoT/M2M connectivity services in sectors including agriculture, smart cities, intelligent transport networks, multimodal logistics, smart electricity meter, consumer durables, etc. by incorporating international best practices is a step in the right direction. For instance, the policy aims to expand the IA ecosystem to 5G and connected devices. This will result in efficiency improvements, economic benefits, and reduced human exertions. National Digital Communications Policy gives a holistic push to other technologies as well. Incentivizing green technology for sustainable development, reducing carbon footprint as a commitment under Paris Pact 2015 and nationally determined contribution. Revenue maximization. Despite some of the well-intentioned policies of the past, successive governments faltered in going for revenue maximization to bridge the fiscal deficit, at the cost of the real telecom needs of the economy and the common man. This has been addressed in the finalized NDCP as the policy aims for universal coverage rather than revenue maximization. Importance for policy consistency. Another criticism from players in the past has been the incidence of frequent policy flip-flops, which make well-laid business plans go awry. In the finalization of the policy, this has been recognized. Change of name for policy and the Commission. It is significant that the big change of policy and implementation perspective is brought out with abundant clarity by the following. The National Telecom Policy will hereinafter be referred to as National Digital Communications Policy. To ensure effective implementation and monitoring of the policy, it is proposed to redesignate the Telecom Commission as the Digital Communications Commission to ensure that the high aspirations are achieved within stipulated time. Connect India. Allowing benefits of convergence in areas such as IPPST and switching. This is a specific addition to the list of strategies. It could possibly be aimed at providing convergence benefits to call centers, BPOs, and internet telephony. Incentivizing green energy. While the draft had already strategized the promoting and deployment of solar and green energy, the final policy goes further and asks for incentivizing. This is a critical requirement. Spectrum. Some extremely meaningful changes are noticed here. The word auctioning has been deleted in the context of spectrum assignment or allocation. Instead, we now have introduction of ensure transparency in allocation and optimize availability and utilization by developing a transparent, normative, and fair policy for spectrum assignments and allocation. This seems to imply that auctions need not be followed for spectrum allocation and that any reasonable, fair, and transparent method of allocation might be followed. This is a much-needed change from the current status and could mean the real deliverance of the sector from its biggest problem. Universal service. Right from its inception, the utilization of the Universal Service Obligation Fund USOF has only been for rural citizens who are not connected. The shortcoming in this approach is that there are also large sections of economically and socially weaker communities that are unconnected and equally deserve universal service. This aspect has been addressed in the final policy in the section dealing with the review of the scope and modalities of USOF. Propel India. India is woefully inadequate in respect of fixed line connectivity, and this is becoming a big handicap as far as digital communications is concerned. This is sought to be addressed through inclusion of a new strategic initiative of reviewing the rationalization of license fees on fixed line revenues to incentivize digital communications. This, hopefully, should help propel the much-needed growth of fixed line communications in India concerns. But almost all the solutions offered find mention in earlier regulations and vision statements. Some of the major targets listed in the 2012 policy are still to be achieved. Instead of delving into why these targets were missed and how things can be improved, the National Digital Communications Policy 2018 lists out more and new targets. Does not have any fresh ideas in terms of addressing the issues being faced by the telecom sector. While restating the center's intent to address the problems, it neither spells out how it plans to achieve the stated objectives nor gives a specific time frame to implement the various proposals. Conclusion. Achieving these goals would require that the key stakeholders, namely the center, the states, local governments, telecom service providers, internet service providers, handset and equipment manufacturers, the academic community, the innovators and start-ups come together to forge a coalition to deliver this national policy and missions. It is hoped that this policy will facilitate the unleashing of the creative energies of citizens, enterprises and institutions in India and play a seminal role in fulfilling the aspirations of all Indians for a better quality of life. 6 MD